Okay.
Yeah.
Debra Lyn, grateful member of Alcoholics Anonymous.
Hi, Deborah.
So I wrote notes because I have to be honest. So the concept is good service leaders together with sound and appropriate methods of choosing them are at all levels indispensable for our future functioning and safety. The primary world service leadership, once exercised by the founders of AA, must necessarily be assumed by the trustees of the General Service Board of Alcoholics Anonymous. So what growing up in AA has given me is vision, responsibility, flexibility, and tolerance. And I really have gotten that here. I didn't have it when I came in. And I'm hoping for tolerance tonight because I feel like I'm preaching to the choir. I got sober in 1186, and I kind of am ashamed to say that I haven't been in general service that whole time because general service is awesome. And I've missed out on a lot, but this is my first time of sharing a concept, so I have never done this before. That's why I wrote it down. I normally don't write things down when I share, as he was talking about. Anyway, I've been reflecting on concept 9, which talks about the importance of good service leadership at every level in AA. It reminds me that leadership isn't about authority or perfection. It's about serving others, being responsible, flexible, tolerant, and having vision. We all have a part to play, whether we're in a formal leadership role or not. Unity in AA depends on everyone's participating and sharing their unique gifts. What I lack, someone else might have. And together, we keep AA whole. Healthy leadership means not fearing authority, but trusting experienced members to guide us. It's about learning from criticism, letting go of personal plans when better ideas come up, and leading by a spiritual example. And in doing my own inventory when I was reading this concept, and really it's pretty much like only within the last 6 months that I've even dabbled in the concept. So that's one of the reasons why I'm kind of ashamed, although I'm not ashamed, because shame just doesn't work for you. But it just doesn't. So I've been reflecting on concept 9, which talks about the importance of good service, and doing my own inventory on what I have seen about myself in this concept. Let me see that I was not mature or wise enough, actually, honestly, until now to be here with you guys. I would have killed you with my enthusiasm. Passion without discipline is recklessness. I heard that a long time ago, and I've used it more than 3 times, and it's been mine for a long time. So anyway. I have experienced and been reckless in AA. In the grapevine this month in April, I read Brian O. from Indianapolis, Indiana said, "I feel oddly proud. It reminds me that even untamed monkeys like me can contribute to a meaningful way as long as they do it with love." I've learned that real leadership is motivated by desire to fulfill our higher power's will, not our own. It's about facing our fears, accepting that we'll make mistakes, and practicing patience and tolerance. When we do this, we experience unity instead of separation, and our relationships inside and outside AA to benefit. I'm grateful that AA is blessed with so many dedicated people, and I thank you. And try to remember that leadership is about helping, not controlling. We all grow together, and that's what keeps AA strong. Not everyone has a leadership role at the highest level, but we have responsibility for that leadership and whatever level we may be. Participating proactively to the extent of our abilities, not to neglect an opportunity for personal growth. I know that growth has happened for me by being asked to be a DCMC. I went from GSR to DCMC, and they asked me to be one after our son passed a year and a half ago. And they knew what I needed. And I'm so grateful. And unity does not happen without participation. Everyone has gifts. And, you know, preconceptions and misconceptions can separate us. And that's what I know for a fact. And I don't know nothing, so it's really good, actually. Not fearing authority and leadership is healthy leadership in action. Every member has the potential to be a leader, and we don't have to do it alone. The more experienced members help guide us in healthy leadership with our fellowship, We hopefully will find our own relationships in our personal lives to benefit by being more tolerant, stable, responsible, flexible, and having good judgment and vision. We experience unity rather than separation again, and it's so true. You know, what I have to say is in the last year and a half that I've been a DCMC, I walked into my first area meeting, and you know, I didn't know anything at all. I mean, I was a GSR for 2 years, and I still didn't know anything. It was just weird, and you know, and yet they asked me to do it, and of course I said yes, because my sobriety date's 1/1/86, and so I've been in service. I've never not had a service commitment in AA. I just haven't done this level of service, and so, and I really had a craving when I was 12 years sober to become a GSR, but then I got to work in nights and work on Sundays, Saturdays, so I couldn't do it, and I was kind of bummed about that. But when I walked into my first district meeting, I'm sorry, area meeting, I was kind of intimidated because I thought all these people had so much more knowledge than me. And they were, you know, like, I'm just really stupid. You know, I mean, all this stuff came up in my head, and I don't really feel that way about myself, but I just felt so inadequate, right? And, you know, after a year and a half of being there, it was just, that is the dumbest thing I ever thought in my entire life. It's the most beautiful bunch of people. I just got to experience PRASA, which I had been in the PRASA when it was in San Francisco, and it was just incredible, but I didn't have a clue as to what it was even about. And when I went to Hawaii this time, I was just blown away by what I learned and the profound level of recovery that is in general service. And so I'm on fire. Okay. My husband just fell on Saturday for the 3rd time in 2 weeks. And so I was really hoping that I could make this. So you know, what I really want to say though is that I read a lot that really inspired me in this concept. And one of the things that didn't inspire me in general service was a few of the bleeding deacons that I have experienced. And some of those things chased me away from it and kept me away from it for many years until those people were no longer in it. You know, like not asking for, you know, I was listening to somebody that was talking about the concepts from Florida or something, a guy, I know what his name is, I don't remember names, but anyway, you know, he talked about how you don't answer a question unless it's asked, you know, and this particular person I'm thinking of, you know, is always in the middle of, you know, giving you an answer. And I'm like, it just is not attractive to me. Now that may be attractive to some others. So I don't really have a problem with that, but it just turned me off. And I don't want to be a know-it-all. That's the whole thing. I just don't want to be a know-it-all. And so, so that pretty much kept me out until that particular regime of people were no longer in that particular area. And I lost out because I wasn't capable of going ahead and telling the truth. And that's the reality. So one of the things I wanted to talk about too is there's some quotes from our service manual that I really, that just caught my eye, okay? Real leadership, of course, has to function in between these entirely imaginary poles of hope or excellence rather, sorry. We have an abundance of men and women whose dedication, stability, vision, and special skills make them capable of dealing with every possible service assignment. We only have to seek these folks out and trust them to serve us. Good leadership will often discard its own cherished plans for others that are better. These points are practical illustrations of the kind of careful discrimination and soul searching that true leadership must always try to exercise. And soul searching has been like the center of my program. Inventory is, I've been doing inventory on paper every day for 20 years at first. And now I know that if I'm not the problem, there is no solution. So I do know that I'm the problem when I take an attitude, right? And so I learned that from my first sponsor. So these points are practical, called upon to face heavy and sometimes long continued criticism. This is the acid test. And I really don't think that I was capable of handling that. And I'll tell you why I was not capable of handling that, because I got diagnosed with HIV at 4 months clean and sober and 3 months pregnant with that son that just died. And the things that I was going through at that particular time, it's a freaking miracle that I stayed sober, because there was no medication and there was nothing, and I had no hope. And so I was just barely keeping my head above water because I couldn't even talk about it in the room. You know, I mean, people were afraid that it was airborne and, you know, all this crazy stuff, you know, in 86. So the thing is that I was dealing with a lot of emotional stuff in my life. And now I'm able to face heavy and sometimes long continued criticism. Often too, we shall have to disagree and then stand fast without losing their friendship. And I got to tell you, this particular people that I lost friendships because I no longer gossip. I knew as soon as I stopped gossiping that I would lose that friend, and I did. They don't call me anymore, and that's because they can't get anything from me. And that was 15 years sober. It took me from 10 to 15 years to not gossip anymore. So these folks are maybe a trifle thicker, and I like to say thicker because I really think it's a thickness, not a sickness, than the rest of us. I don't like negative, you know, connotations. It just doesn't impress me at all. But anyway, than the rest of us, they need not really be destructive at all, depending on how very much we relate ourselves to them. And that's the inventory process, right? And the last line that I just loved. Where is it? Oh God, hello. Oh well. We thank God that Alcoholics Anonymous is blessed with so much leadership in all of its affairs. And I'm so glad to be a part of this fellowship. I am so proud of what I've witnessed in general service and how things are handled and why, because we're egomaniacs with inferiority complexes. So, you know, that's why it takes so long. But you know what? We're protecting this beautiful miracle of God that Bill, with his help, created. So thank you.